The Scott Ryfun Radio Show.
All right. Good morning to you. It's Friday. We've already got a whole lot of people in here ready to discuss things, and just glad to have you here with us. One of the things I will tell you is I had a meeting yesterday because I'm trying to keep you guys as updated as I'm allowed to keep you updated, and as it's appropriate for me to keep you updated on. Had a meeting about some of the high school football stuff yesterday, and next steps are being taken, but again, I can't really say where they're going, but next steps are being, well, I don't really know ultimately where they're going, but I know next steps are being taken, and that's the important part. So just know that's kind of the extent of the progress from yesterday. Now, let's say hey to everybody, because there's a lot of folks here, including Mr. Nip, including Wesley, including our thumbs up from Paul, which again, we need to get our morning going. Dothan Bureau Chief in here. Joe Leake in here with a good morning. The Ward's Toys with number 147 with a good morning. Good morning all the way from Jessup, and Charles Blocker. David Gregory coming from North Carolina with a good morning. Lisa coming in with a good morning. Jim with a good morning. Where does I used to run into Jim at WePub by Publix, and there is no WePub by Publix anymore. So where do you run into Jim these days? Number 8, who's been traveling this week. Number 33 was in just in time. That is very true. Sally, good morning. Good morning, Mr. Gary Cross. Glad to have you here from Satanakuchi. Okay, that sounds like something you might need to see a doctor about. Roger, good morning, sir. 167's got us covered. Aaron's got us covered too. National Peach Ice Cream Day. Is it? Oh, let me tell you. Okay. I don't eat fruits and I don't eat vegetables, as you well know. And, or as most of you well know, some of you may not well know that, but, I was invited to a friend of mine's house one time, and she and I were really good friends and had been, and we were both in college at that point. So I was trying to keep the relationship, going. And she was bringing her boyfriend from college for the first time to meet everybody in town and to meet all her friends and everything. So I was invited over to dinner, and she wound up marrying him. They're still married to this day. So it worked out nicely. But I remember we're sitting at the table, and the family, and you got to understand, again, I don't eat fruits and vegetables, but it is when you're at a social gathering, it becomes a thing. And people start, they don't understand what it is. And they think you're just a kid who's just reluctant. You're just a kid who's just, acting out or whatever. And that's not it at all. I mean, it literally is, it's all repulsive. And I first off, don't like the flavor of peach. And secondly, again, won't eat this stuff. So at the end of the meal, they had homemade peach. They had literally churned peach ice cream themselves. And they said, oh, and my friend said, oh, he doesn't want it. Scott doesn't want any. And she was trying to save me, right? Because she knew I get really bad social anxiety in some of those eating situations because of that. And so, but of course, I was trying to put on a show because, meeting people new for the first time, and I didn't want to seem like a total freak. You want to eat a peach. And she's like, no, don't give Scott any. He's good. He won't. And I said, no, bring it here. Give it here. And I thought peach ice cream, it'll be peach flavored. I'll endure the terrible peach flavor, and that'll be it. And so I got the peach and I started up, and the first thing that goes in my mouth is a giant hunk of peach. Eyes bugged out, and I just swallowed it whole and was like, all right, I'm done. I'm not having any more of this. So it's one of those, you just kind of shift it around in the bowl and eventually you get it. Yeah. So I hope you guys enjoy celebrating National Peach Ice Cream Day. Clearly I will not be. There you go. Good morning. Good to have you here. Hello, sir. Hello, ma'am. And good to see the Brewers on the drive to work with us. We even have a buenos dias from somebody not from that corner of the world. So that's even better. 155's here. Paul Galvez is with us. You got Bobby here. You got 113 with us. And are you still in Florida now, Jessica? Or is that your thing still? You're still sitting in the theater for the Odyssey. No, look, no, come on, man. Come on. All right, let's get into that really quickly because I've got that. I've got a little bit of Odyssey discussion ready to go this morning because we went last night 6 o'clock. But look now, take a look, if you will, at the tomato score for the Odyssey. Now that's the critic score on the left and the viewer score on the right, both 96. And I will tell you why, because it is an exceptional film. It is Christopher Nolan, who I think is he's the best director out there today. He is making movies in ways nobody else makes them, and he's doing things on a technical level nobody else is doing. And he has been doing this, and he made another one. And the thing about him, Christopher Nolan, he makes movies that are stories that are familiar to us, whether it's the Odyssey or whether it's Oppenheimer or whether it's The Dark Knight, but he always does it in a way that you never thought of. Like you're watching it and you're going, yes, I know the story. I know this. Wait, what? Oh, okay. And I mean, he did Tenet, which is a James Bond movie in essence that is done in a way that we never thought of. And I'll tell you the other interesting thing to me is I thought this was going to be another We've Got to Find and Rescue Matt Damon movie. There's a whole subgenre of We've Got to Find and Rescue Matt Damon. Part of it is, like Saving Private Ryan, right? They had to go find and rescue Matt Damon. The Martian, they had to go find and rescue Matt Damon. Interstellar, which is a Christopher Nolan movie, they had to go find and rescue Matt Damon at one point. Of course, turns out in Interstellar, Matt Damon didn't really want to be rescued. But either way, there's kind of a whole subgenre. And this was another one where they were setting up the story that was going to be a find and rescue Matt Damon movie. It turned out it was not. It was actually Jason Bourne, because he didn't know who he was until later in the film. And then when he figured out who he was, he started just whacking people and killing them like crazy. But I'll be honest with you, I thought it was an exceptional film. And the 3 hours to me did not really feel like a 3 hour thing. It certainly just did not feel like it was that long. And I was glad that we got to watch it last night because we're going to be traveling today. We'll be out for the weekend. In fact, we'll not come back until Tuesday afternoon, which of course, again, means no stream Monday or Tuesday. Just think about that. But, and honestly, I'm going to go see Odyssey again at some point. And the reason I'm going to see it again is because this movie was shot 100% in IMAX. That's traditionally not been able to be done because of how large the film is. And they used to not have cameras that could hold a lot of film. So they would, you would do like a few segments in IMAX and that kind of thing. And Nolan has literally had cameras built that will do that. The other thing was they couldn't do a lot of stuff because dialogue scenes weren't great because the cameras are loud. Traditionally, IMAX cameras are really, really loud. Well, again, Nolan had cameras built that are not. It's one of the things that I love about Christopher Nolan that I also love about George Lucas. And I love George Lucas. One of the things I love about Christopher Nolan is when you go see a movie of his, and it's the same with George Lucas, when you go see a movie with his, you know that in some way, film is going to be different after you see it. Like in some way, he has changed, he's done something nobody has done before in cinema. And it's always the way it is with the George Lucas film. It's always the way it is with the Christopher Nolan film. They're going to do something different. They're going to do something that nobody has done before. And that's one of the things that I just really appreciate about the guys. The guy takes chances. National Review gave it a decent review, but there was a real failing in this article that I was kind of honestly surprised to see. And he's kind of jumping on some of the acting. Oh, good. They've now posted Armand White's review of it. I can't wait. we were making fun last night of when Armand White's review was finally posted, how insane it was going to be, because Armand White is got to be one of the just most bizarre film critics out there. But Philip Klein posted a thing last night, and he was, well, sometimes Christopher Nolan makes it, and sometimes he doesn't make it, and some of the things he was calling misses for Christopher Nolan were crazy. I mean, Oppenheimer, which won a gajillion and won Oscars, by the way, went to a smaller mug because I haven't been finishing everything in the giant mug because I'm doing fewer commercial breaks, less time consecutively on the air. But I thought I would switch to the mug of my favorite architecture firm, ALR Architects. So there you go. There's no sponsorships on the show right now, so I might as well plug people that I want to plug. But anyway, so Klein does this thing, and he's just missing the boat on a lot of things he says. But at one point, he actually talks about Zendaya's performance, and he says she's not very good. She plays Athena in the film, sort of. I think later in the film, you kind of go, well, maybe she's not really Athena, and I don't want to spoil that for you. But he says it's a shame because in the poem, Athena is a crucial driver of the action, and limiting her character also demoted the role of the gods in this movie. Well, again, you have to understand the movie Christopher Nolan was making, not the movie you wanted him to make. And the movie that Christopher Nolan was making was essentially one of, these were people and there really weren't any gods then. And I know that's hard for a lot of people to grasp. But that's also kind of just inherent in Nolan's philosophy, where he does that. He strips fantastical elements out of fantasy. And so that, the movie is a good fantasy for people who like fantasy, but it's also a good fantasy for people who don't like fantasy, because most of the fantastical elements of the fantasy are stripped away. There is a giant Cyclops in the film, but there is in no way, it's in no way tied to magic. In fact, the opening line of the whole film is, it is a time of apparent magic. In other words, there's not really any magic, and so when they say that, they criticize the film by saying it diminished the role of the gods. Well, the point of the film is there weren't any gods. And I think we all agree on that at this point. Those guys were doing things believing they were doing them at the whim and the will of the gods, when in fact there were no gods to do things at the whim or the will of. So, the criticism, in the overall, it's a good review, positive review, but he does have some criticisms. And again, when you look at the criticisms of them, they don't really hold up to scrutiny. So, my suggestion was, go watch it, because it's very, very, very enjoyable. All right, there you go. You can always go to Anytime Fitness. They're in Pooler. Just a thought. Okay, I don't know what you mean, but okay. Morning from 150. Good morning. We've got a lot of hellos and a lot of good mornings. And yes, the Zendas, absolutely, over there holding Northwood Estates down. We're good. We're glad for that. After years of listening, you finally got a number. Good. Let's see. My mom would have made you miserable when she found out you don't eat vegetables. I got to tell you, my mom tried. It's not a thing. Rumor has it Michael DeSilchornos. Yeah, all the schools, all at once. Good morning, Ricky. With you on peach flavored stuff and fruit flavored stuff. Made a homemade milkshake once. Oreos is where it's at. And the thing is, I don't mind fruit flavored things except for peaches. And I hate the flavor of peaches. But I don't eat any of the fruits just because the consistency is so gross to me. You can have them. We'll split them. Shame on you. Good morning, South Georgia 40. Absolutely. Daniel, hi, good morning. And our Holy Ghost trucker is in the house. John's here. Rumor has it you may be the one who bought the light. Oh, no. I saw that. What was it? It was the Luke Skywalker lightsaber from Empire Strikes Back, and it went for what, 3.7 million? Is that correct? Here's the thing. I can survive while we negotiate out the non-compete, but I can't do that. And I wouldn't do that. I can't imagine why I would do that. Let's see. These days, something a filmmaker hasn't done before is make a movie out of original thought and not just a sequel. Well, there you go. And again, but on a technical level, it really is something else. Is the Odyssey showing at a theater in the city limits? It's showing at the GTX. I'm sure showing on the island. But, the other thing is, and I mentioned yesterday that there's really not there's really only one better experience you can have than going to the GTX and seeing a film, and that is going to that Royal Cinemas in Pooler, the tallest IMAX in the world is in Pooler at Royal Cinemas. And it is I've been a couple of times. G-Man's been a lot more than that because he goes pretty frequently. But I saw Oppenheimer there because of the IMAX stuff that was shot. I saw Fantastic Four there, and there was some IMAX stuff in that. And again, this movie shot entirely in IMAX, so I think it's worth going to see the GTX. But I think if you want to double dip, or if you're already in the Pooler area, it's very worth going to that Royal Cinemas in Pooler as well. Good morning, Gary. Good morning, Mr. Otis Putnam. And was it okay? So 3.75 million. Sorry, I missed a little $50,000 in there. Going to wait to see the Odyssey till the City Commission finds grant money for free tickets. Well, why not? They're doing everything else. They're doing everything else for free. No doubt about that. All right, so let's take a look at some of the things that we're bringing to the table today. I got this a terrible note about this yesterday, and thought we'd bring it to the table for people to just know. And this is not a news story or anything like that. It's just an opportunity for people to know. Yesterday, 3:30 p.m., Drew Hansen, killed on the line of duty, serving a warrant in Alexandria, Louisiana. Has ties to the area, knows people from around here, and that's why I bring this in. Well-respected officer, many badges, police officer, Border Patrol, ICE, U.S. Marshal, killed yesterday serving a warrant. You know, we continue to hear over and over again about people killed during, rounding up illegals and that kind of thing. You never hear about the officers that are shot and killed. You don't, for some reason, they get a pass and in killing those guys. And you don't see protests. You don't see nationwide protests. You don't see demand for reform. You don't see all that stuff. And I don't think that's fair. So I thought we would spend a moment and recognize Drew Hansen, who served his country proudly and patriotically. Yesterday, now it says Amber Alert, but it's Levi's call, but also Amber Alert. I don't understand all the layering of things on top of other things like that, but okay. They issued this yesterday. We are told the young lady was in, and she was, this was a Baxley thing. Most of the time when the Amber Alert sounds, it is usually somebody who is in the Atlanta metro, because that's where the population is focused. In this particular instance, she was a Baxley person, and they found her. She's been located according to sources. So you don't have to worry about that anymore. We're all good. Now, this is a picture that I have. I don't know why I have it, but I have it. Now, scare time. That's right. It's time to scare everyone. I haven't scared anybody in a while. So we need to get ready to frighten people to death. And here we go. This Hurricane Center dropping a potential tropical system near Florida. It's right at us. By the way, what was it? A little over a week ago, they were doing the same thing in almost the exact same spot. And so the reality is, this could become a thing. There's a 20% chance of it becoming a thing in the next 7 days. But when it does, I mean, look where it is right now. It's probably not going to materialize around us. But that's on, I don't know if it's on the front page of the paper of record. I don't think it's on the front page. I think it's on one of the interior pages. But it's still, we've got to frighten everybody as much as possible. So I hope that you are terrified right now of getting swept up in that hurricane. Constitutional carry for lightsabers. I'm okay with that. The movie was a lot to take in. Need to see it in 70 minutes. 70 schmevity. 70 is a thing of the past. Don't worry about 70. Again, IMAX. That's, and go, and because we saw you at the theater last night. But let me just say, you've seen it probably the best you're going to see it here. And again, GTX is just a great place to see a theater. This particular movie should be seen in IMAX, in real IMAX, not the theaters that say, yes, we're IMAX and aren't really IMAX. Go see it at the Pooler IMAX. That's real, legit IMAX. Good morning, sir. Good morning. Yuck. Lettuce from Taco Bell, cause of explosive experience. The funny thing is, like, they're investigating Taco Bell for serving people vegetables. I mean, of all the things over the years that Taco Bell, the one thing I would not go after them for is actually serving people vegetables. I don't know. That just feels like it's kind of weird. Good for you, sir. Good for you. Unless there's lightning, yeah, you're okay. Oh, look at that tropical system. Oh my goodness. Why you not on WGIG? Well, I mean, we can do this again. And that's the funny thing is I'm still getting people who are I just heard what happened. I don't know. Because in at least, and I did the count night before last, at least 94 different cities, they went and took a major broom to the local programming staff. When I drink this, I have to make sure that the logo is still there. Oh, that's awkward. That doesn't work. They eliminated all of the local programming staff in Brunswick. They eliminated all of the local programming staff in Savannah. I happen to be both. So I got it doubly. And Macon, they got my buddy Terrence in Macon, and he was the only guy left in Macon. They got rid of him. They clear cut. The only non-Atlanta market they didn't just bulldoze in Georgia was Augusta. And the only theory that I have is my buddy Fats up there has Masters connections. And I know that he's done things for executives in the company to get them hooked up with Masters stuff. And that's the only thing I can figure is that they're like, we can't touch Augusta. We'll lose our Masters connection. Because otherwise, but the only city in Georgia, the only market in Georgia outside of Atlanta they didn't touch was Augusta. They bulldozed a ton of South Carolina. Again, 94 different cities. They're in, I don't know how many different cities they're in, 130, 140. They took out the bulk of the programming staff in most of those places. Auburn, West Point, Georgia, they just, they got rid of a bunch of people and are just putting national programming on there, which again is very, very sad. I totally agree. And, the good news is that I'm doing this every day, and I'm doing this every day to kind of just stay in, what I don't want to do is go away. I still think there are things that I can contribute, but there are also contractual issues that keep me from just jumping straight onto a radio show right away. So we're doing the best we can to just kind of stay out there and keep doing our thing without violating any kind of a contract at this point. So, over time I will get back onto the radio, and I'm already having discussions, already having great discussions. And pretty much think I've got the radio partner nailed down, other than, the partner having to be patient with me as well as I navigate getting out of the deal with iHeart. And yes, everybody says, well, it shouldn't matter. If they got rid of you, then, and I agree, but unfortunately that's not the law. So, I'm trying to do things right. I'm trying to do things legally. So no one is at the station. No, they run all that stuff out of Cincinnati now. Every single thing, all 5 stations are run completely out of Cincinnati. Good morning from 150. Good morning to you. Good morning. Good morning. Don't want you to go. I'm not going anywhere. And again, one of the things I was telling Mrs. Rifen last night is that one of the things here is I want to stay out there for you guys because I want you guys to know I'm still here for you. But the other thing is I don't want to get into being some schlub that while I'm waiting for things to happen, I'm sleeping until noon and, eating Cheerios. Well, I wouldn't eat Cheerios anyway. Cheerios are terrible, but, eating cereal all day and that kind of thing. I'm going out and I'm doing, and I'm having meetings with people and I'm having phone calls with people, and I'm getting up every morning and doing this. And again, doing it for you and for me, because I think it's good for us on both fronts. They just relaunched that, by the way, actual real station. So let's go to the next thing we have up for bids here. And that is a very nice letter from Coach Chuck Fair. I love the Fairs. They are anybody who knows first off, yes, Coach Chuck Fair, great coach, but also just great person. Chuck and Mrs. Fair, both wonderful people. And of all the people who are fully qualified to write a letter of congratulations to our draftees, it would be Chuck Fair. I love this. I ran into them a few weeks ago, believe it or not, at Marside. And just really quickly, congratulations to Wesley Robertson and Jacob Samus on getting drafted in last weekend's MLB draft. It was a pleasure to watch both of these ball players this past season. Because again, Glenn and Brunswick both had a great run. Brunswick got a little farther, but both schools had a great run of baseball this year. Despite what the secondary headline in the Tuesday article states, these two are not the first draft picks for Glenn Academy since 2000. Jermaine Johnson was drafted by the Kansas City Royals in 2001, and Cody Paul was drafted by the Pittsburgh Pirates in 2006. Both of these ball players chose to play baseball in college instead of signing a pro contract. In addition to these two other Glenn Academy ball players were drafted after attending college. Brandon Johnson in 2004 by the Chicago White Sox, and Bo Way in 2014 by the Los Angeles Angels. Again, congrats to Wesley and Jacob. May their baseball careers continue to flourish. I love that Coach Fair is dropping some knowledge on people. Absolutely love it. This thing. Usually I'm just screenshotting the headlines and then going and reading it to you. But this one, oh man, this one. Do we have the first page of it? Did we get the first page? This is the first page of it, right? This one right here. Yeah. But it doesn't appear to be the first page of it. That's not good. It's got a wonderful picture there of the Chatham Sheriff, though. You got to give him credit for that. All right. Well, you know what we'll do? Why is that going so slowly? Why is that so far behind? Good grief. All right. So let's do this. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to share it with you regardless. I just don't have the whole thing like I was hoping I would. But it's an exclusive by Ansley Franco. And the headline, records reveal criminal histories tied to Chatham Sheriff's deputies. And it's a really long article, as you can see from all the different screen grabs I have. Yeah, there's one. But it's, I'm not going to read the whole thing to you. It's really long. But let's just say, and probably not to a lot of people's surprise at this point, there's some shenanigans happening in the sheriff's office in Chatham County yet again. It's kind of ridiculous that this continues to happen. And we just keep seeing bizarre things happening for whatever reason in the Chatham Sheriff's Office. And the great thing is that it's one of those things that when you criticize the sheriff in Chatham, as when you criticize the mayor in Savannah, or when you criticize the mayor in Brunswick, you automatically have a squad of people who jump up and start screaming racism, which is a horrible precedent and a horrible thing to do, because what you are essentially saying is that some people are shielded and immune from any criticism because of the melanin content of their skins. And I'm sorry, I just don't buy it. Speaking of buying things, Paige Aiken with a letter to the editor in the paper of record. And Paige Aiken is a very, very good realtor. And Paige Aiken straight up nails this. And it is as follows. Brunswick is right to route abandoned and tax delinquent properties through the Land Bank Authority. Taking blighted homes off the tax roll, clearing their liens, and returning them to productive use is exactly what land banks are for. On that, the city should move forward without hesitation. But the agreement goes further, handing the city control of the development itself. This is what we were talking about yesterday, that the city should not be in the business of building houses. Listen to this. The city would be in charge of contractor selection, budgets, timelines, listing terms, material changes to constructional plans, and final sale approval. That is the city acting as a housing developer, and it creates a conflict of interest it cannot honestly manage. And the reason they're doing this is because, again, they want to be selective. Who gets this? Deserving people should get it. That's who gets the benefits of this. Deserving people. It's like when they were decommissioning vehicles, and rather than, say, put them at auction, which is the right thing to do if you're going to, they had some, this was earlier this year where they were decommissioning some city vehicles, and they wanted to make them available to the public. And instead of auctioning them off, which would be the correct thing to do, they went, well, we want to choose some people who deserve them. And that's not your place. That's not what you're supposed to do. I'm sorry about that, but that's not your job, to choose the winners and the losers, to choose the deserving and the not deserving. Consider the chain the agreement authorizes. The city takes the property. It uses the land bank to scrub the back taxes and liens, a power no private competitor enjoys. It then controls the rehab, sets the price, keeps the proceeds, and pays the land bank an undefined fee along the way. The same government that issues permits, enforces code, and regulates the housing market would now compete directly in it. You cannot be both referee and player. I mean, Page is crushing it here. When the city rushes its own homes to market, every decision it makes about competing private projects is tainted by self-interest, and public trust erodes whether or not any official abuses the position. The fix is simple. Let the city convey distressed properties to the land bank. Let the land bank clear the liens and offer the homes to private developers and buyers through an open, competitive process. Brunswick should facilitate redevelopment, not participate in it. It can't be said better. It was said right there. The best it could be said. Martha Dismer, surprisingly, has written another nutty letter to the editor in the paper of record. This should shock no one at any point in time ever, but it happened. Here it is. Has reported a nationwide outbreak of cyclosporiasis has sickened thousands of people across the 34 states. A cabinet member with no qualifications in healthcare is overseeing this outbreak. I think we're okay here. Critics are directly tying this outbreak to decisions made by HHS Secretary Kennedy. Now, here's what's great about this. Anytime anything bad happened, there was a building. You saw this in Manhattan last week. One of the structural supports buckled. They blame Trump. I mean, everything is Trump's fault. We have to blame Trump for everything. Kennedy stripped cyclosporiasis from the list of pathogens requiring federal tracking in the name of government efficiency. Prior to 2025, a collaborative program called FoodNet helped federal and state regulators track foodborne pathogens, including cyclosporiasis. Let me just go ahead and tell you this. This is a Democrat talking point. I have the strange feeling, because I've seen this type of argument made over and over again, and every time it gets under scrutiny, it turns out, well, maybe that wasn't really the entire truth. As a former public health professional, I give Mr. Kennedy a vote of no confidence for his ignorance of science and a past 14-year addiction to heroin. We can do much. Look, I'm no fan of RFK Jr., but I don't think he's giving everybody diarrhea. Sorry. So let's go in here and see what else we got. Don't become diaper. That was my sophomore year college roommate. That was an adventure. One day, I told a lot of old school stories yesterday. Today, I'm going to try and refrain from doing as much of that. Saving my allowance, just in case your new show requires a subscription. Now, the thing I will go ahead and tell you now, and I've said this on this stream before, I don't think that's going to happen. I think we're going to be okay. I don't think we're going to do my idea is we're going to go on the radio. I have a radio partner. Again, we're about lined up. I just got to get out of the iHeart thing. But we're going to have sponsors. You don't know how many people have come to me wanting to sponsor whatever we do next. And I haven't gone out because, again, I can't go out and solicit sponsors. But the number of people who have come to me, which I can't do anything about, and said, I would like to sponsor whatever you're doing next, we're going to be okay. We're not going to need a subscription. Now, that having been said, what I'd like to do is this is sponsored and this is free in the morning. And then other programs I would like to put on a paid tier, and, things we do, and just more fun stuff. Talk live over presidential speeches, watching movies, doing just other fun stuff. And that would be on a paid tier. because it would take extra time to do. But this show is free. It is going to be free. It's going to stay free. You will not have to worry about a subscription for that. Les Nessman doing the news. I don't know. Well, there's a lot of WKRP talk here. Oh, because of Cincinnati. Oh, okay. I get it now. Okay. I see what you're saying. We need you. You bring us true news and information from our area. You can't get that from a national program. Well, and that's what they don't get. And I don't understand that. But, again, I don't make this. The other thing that, again, bothers me about the whole thing is we were profitable. We made them money. And we returned money to the company every single year. And yet, it didn't seem to matter. Let's see. What is my number, Wesley? I don't know. That's a really good question. I'll have to look that. I'm looking at the spreadsheet, but I don't want to. Again, we do say we'll give out three. We'll give out three. Oh, Wesley, you're not on there, so I guess you're 170. How about that, Wesley? 170. All right, you're right behind Neil Jump at 1101. So there you go. BB, it's always good to see you there. Josh, and by the way, I got to hear him play last week. He was playing at Coastal Cucina over on Jekyll, which has become one of my wife's, Mrs. Riffin's, like, favorite spots ever. And I love it. Don't get me wrong. It's not just me. It's just funny because she just brings it up a lot. It's like, if we're going to go out to dinner, why don't we go there? Okay, we'll go there. Anyway, he was playing. I felt bad for Josh because he was outside and it was boiling hot. So there weren't people sitting outside, but we were sitting right by the window where he was on the other side. We were inside where the air conditioning is. And man, he just sounded so good. He just was, he just was knocking it out of the park. And again, nobody's sitting out there, but he's just playing his guts out. And I went and said something to him afterwards because I just wanted him to know we did appreciate what he was doing. There weren't any people there clapping and tipping outside, but we could hear him in the restaurant and he sounded tremendous. And I do love, let me also say, I do love they're still doing defunct dates because the two of those guys are just ridiculously good. But so Josh went to the Pooler IMAX last night. My ears were exhausted after that. And I'll have to check that out too. I'm glad you did that. That's pretty cool. There were times last night, when the soundtrack did get very, very, very loud and rumbly, real low end. Let's see. 50 days till college football starts. There you go. Eddie needs a number. All right. Well, I said we'll give away 3 numbers a day. So let's give Eddie a number. And Eddie, I will give you a number, but only if you can tell me when is that Eliano's going to open up on Altama. That's what you have to tell me because your name's on it. And I need to know when is that Eliano's going to open up on Altama, because there seems to be no progress on it right now. Like it's just sitting there. Like the sign was up and the ground was broken and then nothing. Is that a government problem? What's the deal there? Let's see. Contractor select. Yes. Read Paige Aiken's letter in the paper of record today. He spells it out very nicely and he's very correct. I haven't been on my phone to catch the show live. You told me to check back in last week about getting. Okay. So you're the last one today because that's number 3. Billy T-Bone Porter. You're it. You're done. Let's see. The city has created an entire housing department. Amen, Paige. Yeah, well, and Regina was on the program, talking about that, and I was just kind of like, wow, I can't believe this is a thing. This is, wow. Back home in North Carolina, our local morning show just called us P1s. That's a radio term. The P1 is the primary listener. Like a P1 is the person who is your most rabid fan, your biggest supporter, the person who turns on that radio first, the person who will follow you anywhere. That's the P1. Their station is that station. That's it. They're loyal, devoted P1s. We love P1s. No doubt about it. All right, let's see. Anybody know who got that old city car that should go to POFO? No, I don't know who wound up getting it. And again, that doesn't seem very above board or up front, does it? Did they not blame Bush for everything as well? Yeah. That's it's funny because everybody's using the term TDS nowadays and Trump derangement syndrome, but really before that, Rush came up with all that, and Rush came up with Bush derangement syndrome way before Trump derangement syndrome. And Bush did get blamed for everything. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't know what that's for, but good. Good morning. Good to see you here. Trump has the Spinolator 3000 trying to get some hurricanes. Bert Gravely, good morning. Good morning, ma'am. What are your thoughts on the president addressing the nation last night? I didn't watch it live because I was busy watching the Odyssey. I think I got the better end of the deal. I just don't. I went back and reviewed a lot of what he said, and it's just the same old stuff. You know, he's well, you know, we found out that the Chinese and the Russians could get the election data, but everybody can get that. People buy that. You can do a public records request. The stuff he's talking about was out there. There was nothing new in anything he said last night. Where I will say what I will say is that, you know, there were a lot of people who were upset that all the networks didn't cover it. The networks who didn't cover it because it was going to be a nakedly partisan speech. And I would get that and I would understand that. But I keep going back to that night where Joe Biden stood in front of that hellish red backdrop with armed soldiers behind him, blaming conservatives for all the problems in our country and screaming like Hitler at the podium. And they all covered that. And that was one of the, you know, it's funny because like Democrats are constantly screaming fascist, 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 right? And yet, quite possibly the most fascist display in the last 100 years by an American government was that speech given by Joe Biden that night. And again, they'll tell you because he's in front of that blood red background, and people, well, there was a red, white, and blue background, but the camera didn't. Yeah, but that's not what was on the camera. You know, it's kind of like Nixon beat Kennedy on substance in the debate, but everybody, because it was on camera, didn't see that. It was a horrific thing, and they covered that, and it was a nakedly partisan speech. So, you know, the notion of we didn't cover it because it was going to be partisan or because it was partisan is kind of ridiculous considering the things they've covered on the Democrat side of things. That's the way I'll see it. Cutting 2 top 10 Georgia broadcasting shifts. Yeah, and again, yes, of all the shifts on the air, we were 2 of the top 10. Brunswick was number 2 in all of Georgia outside of Atlanta, and we were, I think, 8 or 9 in Savannah, with 8 or 9 in the state on the Savannah version of the show. So yeah, we were generating revenue. We were making way more than we were costing, and I don't get it, but I'm not. It's not for me to say. Tim, glad to have you here. Boy, he's a nutty guy. Florida Gator, funny though, funny guy. Nothing like good T-Bone. There you go. Billy T-Bone Porter wants to know what number he is. You were 172, sir. 172. Gates of Hell speech. I remember it well. Yeah, I actually took, if you guys ever saw it, I took the, when the mall burned down in Brunswick on September 20th, 1983. Yes, I remember the date. There's a reason I remember the date. When the mall burned down on September 20th, 1983, everybody remembers this because anytime you mention it, they go, you know, well, the movie that was playing at the theater. And it's the funny thing is, like, people treat that like it's some secret knowledge. Well, you know, when the movie was playing at the, you know, the movie was playing at the, you don't know what the movie was. The movie was The Gates of Hell. And we know that. We all know that because we all saw it. We all got the paper. So I took the marquee from the picture in the paper and I put it behind Biden as he's literally like got 2 fists up in the air and screaming at the podium with the Marines on either side of him with the arms and the deep blood red. And then I put Gates of Hell up there behind him because that's what it looked like to me. Yeah, but he didn't. That's the thing. It's not anything we don't already know. And at one point, it says Venezuela, they could hack their elections in Venezuela. But if you go further into the stuff, the documents, they say that Venezuela, yes, could hack their own elections, but couldn't hack anybody else's. So again, it was kind of a non-point that he's making. I don't get it. But anyway, I don't ask these questions. I just live my life. That's all. We had a couple more here. Let's see. What are we doing here? Are we doing this one? Let's see. Oh, that's still that one. Good grief. Boy, there's a lot in that story. I may get to that before we get done here today. I don't know. We'll see. That's the missing 13-year-old girl. We mentioned that, the Amber Alert that came up. Let me also say this, and that's a neat thing too, but it also leads me to feel bad about that, the tall ship Lynx and the guy that got hit and that they still don't have anybody arrested for that. And that's the thing I want to get into, because I do have the police report on that. I don't understand why, everybody's screaming about the flock cameras these days. They can track anybody, anywhere, anytime. But why can't we have gotten the driver that hit that guy? That does remind me, though, speaking of the Trump speech last night, what the speech that should have been aired last night was the Marco Rubio speech. Marco Rubio gave a speech on left-wing terrorism that was fantastic. And it's funny because, you watch J.D. Vance going on Joe Rogan's show and you go, I once again have my doubts about J.D. Vance as president of the United States. But then Rubio goes out there and does something like this, which just absolutely knocks it out of the park. Rubio, go.
And unique evil. It has always been driven by a hatred, above all else, a hatred for civilization itself. It is a revolt of the worst against the best, a revolt of the weak and the cowardly against the strong and the good. It is perpetrated by those who cannot build, who cannot create, who cannot achieve great things, and take their revenge upon the world for their own inadequacy by seeking to destroy those who can. This is what radical leftism is. It may wear various different slogans and ideologies across place and time. They can call themselves anti-capitalist or anti-imperialist, communist or anarchist or Marxist, but the fundamental character is always the same. It's always the same. It is a poisonous resentment cloaked in the language of equality and justice, and liberation, an overwhelming need to tear down what greater men have built, to wreck what is beautiful and what is right on behalf of people who are only filled with ugliness and have nothing else to offer the world. Through violence and through terror, they once again seek to impose their ugliness on all of us. The old dogma was wrong. The old dogma was wrong. None of this is driven by idealism. It is not utopian. In fact, it is the opposite. One of the criticisms you sometimes hear of communism, for example, is that it sounds good in theory, but it never works in practice. That's actually not true. Communism does not sound good in theory. The world it envisions for all of us is small, flat, gray, leveled of all exception, drained of all that is good and noble in the human soul. The world it envisions is a world without courage, a world without creativity or ambition, a world without heroes or glory or great causes to strive towards, a world without miracles, without myths, without men who rise above the rest to do incredible and extraordinary things. And the world communism envisions is a world without God. For these architects of revolutionary violence, the towering achievement of our civilization, for them, it's an unbearable humiliation, a reminder of what they cannot do, and a reminder of what they cannot be. So they choose instead to destroy. They attack pipelines, they attack railroads, they attack power grids and laboratories, the physical embodied symbols of power, invention, and achievement. This is the nature of the terrorism we face today. They despise the West because the West is great.
I mean, just took it apart. It just a great speech from Marco Rubio yesterday. And And again, and then contrast that with JD Vance going on Joe Rogan and going, yeah, Epstein was probably some kind of an asset, and maybe Mossad, and maybe Russia. We don't really know. Probably some kind of an intelligence asset. It's like, come on, man. You're the vice president of the United States. Just stop it. Just stop it. All right, let's see. No commercials every 5 minutes. Well, again, one day there will be commercials every 5 minutes. But the interesting thing is, here's what I've realized about commercials is people are just going to complain about commercials no matter what. I reworked the clocks at the beginning of this year so that we had two really long stretches of uninterrupted talk, and nobody seemed to notice that we had giant long stretches. They still complained about the commercials, even though we had fewer of them and longer talk stretches. But anyway, what I will say is this: there will be commercials. There will be fewer of them, though, once that actually does come to pass. Once we actually do start doing things with our radio partners, I will definitely say that. AOC stating networks should not air the State of the Union address was a fascist tactic. I will agree with you on that completely. Henry Ball, good to have you here. Thank you so much for all you've done. By the way, we're over 1,040. We were trying to hit 1,000, and we've been growing the subscriber. We want you to, again, keep liking, keep subscribing, keep telling people about it. Right now, we are at 1,040 subscribers, and we'll take everybody we can get. And just and please like the video. Please like the video. Let's see. Marco is top 5 greatest forces holding office among Republicans. I hope a POTUS. I do too. And I'll be honest with you, 2016, that's who I voted for in the primaries. So I'm glad he's there. Joanne, how are you? Good to have you here. Is that a floral print shirt or Kiss standing on stage? Neither. If you look really closely, it is not Kiss standing on stage or a floral print shirt. It is 5 bounty hunters, or 6 bounty hunters. Well, let's say, hang on. I think 5, because you've got 4LOM, Bosk, Boba Fett, Zuckus, and IG-88. So there you go. Father was a sales manager at a radio and TV station. I love commercials. Let me also say this. There's a new TV station starting up in Camden. Congratulations to them. Channel 32. It'll be an over the air. I don't think it's on a cable system yet, but I'm sure eventually it will be. And they said in their announcement yesterday, they're going to do 6 channels, which I'm assuming means it's HD. With HD, you get sub bands. So you can actually do several different channels on one frequency. So, and again, with HD is a marvelous thing. So congratulations to Camden. You guys are getting a TV station. Brunswick doesn't have a TV station. And I saw number 18, I think it was, making suggestions that maybe they do an issue show with me, and that's fine. Just remember, especially at this point, I'm not free. 10 minutes with no commercial. Okay, so somebody recognized it. Thank you. Yes, exactly. That's how the HD stuff works. Exactly. Thank you for pointing that out. Yes. 32.1 through 32.6. Yes, just subscribed. Good. Keep it up and share it. YouTube getting subscribers is great, and liking the video is also great. It is important. It does help us spread the word about the program. And yes, one day we'll have commercials, but I will tell you again, you won't have as many minutes of commercials because we've already got the clocks worked out. Again, I have somebody ready to put us on the radio. Just can't happen yet. And not just here, but I have somebody ready in Savannah. We're that close. Just got to get the exit worked out. But I will tell you that we have the clock, and it has far fewer minutes than we had on the original program before. And on top of that, we will not have ads for Las Culturistas. That used to blow me away, the things that they would do the podcast ads for. And all I could figure was they go, well, it's news talk and it's people talking. And podcasts are people talking. Therefore, all podcasts are part of the news talk audience. And then you put the very flamboyant Bowen Yang on there with an Olympics podcast that is literally named after a porno movie. The decisions sometimes just blew me away. No pun intended. What do we have here? Okay, yeah, so we talk about that really quickly. Thank you. There we go. Tall Ship Alyssa making a rare stop on River Street for its first visit to Savannah in more than 130 years. We'll keep you updated on that as it gets a little closer. Trump uses primetime address to the nation to once again raise doubts about past elections. And again, this is one of those interesting things. As Joy mentioned, he brought receipts this time. And this is the kind of thing we were hearing in 2020, where people were going, see, here's the proof. And they would send me these videos and these, and my favorite one still was the Javon Pulitzer 45-minute testimony in front of the state Senate committee where, everybody, this is it. This is the one, ironclad proof. And you watch it and he didn't say anything. Like, I don't know that people really understand what proof and evidence really are. This thing last night was not it. And that's not surprising because, again, it didn't happen. The other thing that frustrates me, and I'll be very honest with you, and I've said this many times before, we used to make fun of Democrats for making the exact same arguments that now Republicans are making religiously. We used to make fun of them because they were dumb, stupid, childish fantasies. Stacey Abrams used to walk around saying the same. HBO did a documentary prominently featuring Stacey Abrams about this same nonsense before it happened in 2020. And then all of a sudden 2020 comes around and Republicans start literally just, they should be sued for copyright infringement for stealing the Democrat talking points so thoroughly. And the funny thing is, then the Democrats do the whole, well, he said without proof that blah, blah, blah. And but they never said Stacey Abrams said without proof or Hillary Clinton said without proof. But it's the same exact talking points, the same ones. And that frustrates me because, again, it was stupid when they said it. How is it not stupid now? Speaking of stupid, somebody's got to explain this to me. This is a program that's going on in Chatham County, the Show Us Your Guns program. And when you read the article, it literally is a bunch of guys who are trying to get out of being punished for something, going, I've learned my lesson. I've learned how to think about other things. I've learned how to control my anger. I got to tell you something. I don't trust people who have never touched a gun, have never had a gun, have never held a gun, who have nothing but fear, disgust, and contempt for guns, who want guns outlawed. I don't trust them to help people not use guns in crimes. I don't think those are your people, because I think their mindset and their attitude actually leads to more gun crime, because it leads to people sometimes forcibly being less armed. It sometimes leads people to not seeing being armed as a solution to the defense, a personal defense issue. I don't get these things, and I don't get putting counselors in charge of gun policy. I'll be honest with you. It blows me away. And here's another great example. So Josh Hawley yesterday is talking to a woman, Liz Oyer, in front of a Senate committee yesterday. Liz Oyer is an attorney, was in the Biden White House. She tried to get the Biden administration to give clemency to Dylan Roof. Now, if you remember Dylan Roof, I think he was South Carolina, right? He went into a black church and killed a bunch of people because they were black. I mean, it's I'm not a fan of hate crime statutes, because I just think, again, you prioritize one person's life over another. But if you're going to have one, this is a pretty good application of it. She was trying to get the Biden administration to give clemency to Dylan Roof. Now, I don't think they did it because, I'll be honest with you, I don't think they withheld it for any reason other than political considerations, because they knew they would be branded racist. But that probably, it's amazing. But here is the exchange between Josh Hawley and Liz Oyer. This is remarkable.
"40 federal death row inmates, all of them, clear them out, correct?" Sir, as I told Chairman Grassley, I'm not free to discuss the recommendations.
Well, that's what your memo says. I
President.
mean, we have your memo. Your memo of November 4th, 2024 says, and I quote, disparity and undue severity of sentence, which are present in many, if not all of these cases, have been recognized as grounds for clemency. And you went on to recommend in that memo and a series of other memos that are now recorded and public record that the President of the United States grant clemency to murderers, rapists, and the most horrible offenders, all of them, clear death row completely out. I'm amazed you've been called here today. I'm absolutely amazed by it. But let's just talk about the people who you recommended. You talk about honoring victims. The people who you recommended get clemency and live at the expense and sufferance of taxpayers for the rest of their lives. Let's start with Dylann Roof. Dylann was a neo-Nazi who murdered 9 African-American worshipers at a Bible study in Charleston, South Carolina, 2015. Do you remember this case?
I do remember it very well.
I would hope you did. Here's his victims. You want to look at them? There they are. 9 of them at a Bible study in a church, killed in cold blood. The DOJ knew from day one that he had decided, I'm going to quote from the prosecutors, decided to attack African Americans because of their race. He further decided to attack African American worshipers in a black church in order to make his attack more notorious. More notorious. And yet you recommended that he be granted clemency, live at the expense of taxpayers for the rest of his life, substitute your judgment for that of the American judicial system. Do you stand by that recommendation today?
Sir, I'm not going to comment on the recommendations that I made, but I can tell you that Mr. Roof is going to die in prison as...
He's going to live in prison for a very long time because of you, because of your recommendations. And here's what you said in your memo of October 30th, 2024. You said that actually Roof is not a compelling candidate for clemency, but you recommended it anyway. Why? Because he suffered from anxiety, you said. Right? He suffered from anxiety. Did it ever occur to you that maybe the family of his
I'm just
victim...
going to go ahead and tell you now, anxiety is, I know there are people out there, but I suffer from it. It's one of the big hoaxes of this era. It is one of the big, I've got to have some kind of a disease because we all prioritize disease. So here's my disease.
Might suffer a little bit of anxiety because he marched into their church and murdered them in cold blood because he was an incredible racist and he wanted to get on TV.
Sir,
Do you regret it?
I'm not going to comment on the record.
Do you regret it?
I'm not going to comment on the record. Oh my goodness. Just amazing. But that's the kind of person that Democrats want in charge of criminal policy, gun policy. Let's give credit. Let's give some clemency to this guy, this racist who murdered 9 black people in a black church at a Bible study because they were black. Let's give him clemency because he has anxiety. All right. Probably none of my business. Was iHeart kind enough to give you a phone call, or did you get the news? They called and they missed me, so I called them back and I missed them. So then they scheduled a time to call me, and then that's when I said, "Oh, that's odd," because I already knew that they had already cleaned house in Savannah, and had gotten rid of Callie, our buddy here, and so I was kind of the last guy standing between Brunswick and Savannah, and so it was 2 days after they got rid of everybody else, and I thought, well, either I have escaped the blade, or they're really late in getting to me, or or they're giving me the marching orders to go forward, and I'm the guy who's got to go forward with everything. I really wasn't sure. And then when they got on the phone and the new region president, who I never met, never made the effort to be, the previous region president was a great guy, got to know everybody and came to understand their function. This guy, nothing. And had been in there since, had been with us for almost a year and hadn't come to meet anybody. It was really odd. But he's like, "Yes, I'm here, and so is with me." And I went, "Okay," because I've had to be in those meetings before. And, when you fire people, you have to have a witness with you. That's an HR thing. So, yeah. So it wound up being a phone call. No, I didn't get an email about it. In fact, the second I was off the phone, I was like, well, there are a couple of things I need out of my email. And I logged in. Email was already done. By the time I was off the phone with them, they'd already shut me off. Rubio 2028. Yeah. Or DeSantis. I won't object to Rubio, but I'm still partial to DeSantis. And a lot of people are like, well, DeSantis should be on the Supreme Court. But you don't understand and probably that's his dream job. But to be honest with you, he's a great executive. And he's showing that in Florida on a very regular basis. Nobody needs more to get more. Can you hint to whether the potential stations are AM or FM? Wondering if we'll get better reception or similar to WGIG with the FM translator. What I will say is we're looking at doing things across several bands. I can't say a lot, but you understand. The show us our guns event was something where vehicle guns hop up on the dash to be acknowledged and pilfered by criminals, or just, bodybuilding. Seen those videos on YouTube talking about Europeans coming over to America because the World Cup, and Europeans are completely shocked because they were obviously lied to. Yeah. No, we've talked about it. We've talked about it extensively. We've talked about Freddie. We've talked about Freddie the German who came over here, and that was exactly what happened with him. There's a British couple that came and stayed in Brunswick in a little Airbnb in Brunswick, and it was in downtown too. And they were blown away. They loved it. In fact, I think they went to Palmer's for a meal because I think Palmer sent me that. But yeah, it's been a terrific thing. What would end his anxiety is killing him faster. Yeah, if there has ever been a good candidate for the death penalty, it would be Dylan Roof. No doubt about that. She's so irritated to have her virtue signaling called out by common sense. And just laid it out there. And again, these are the guys who, we're the people who we hate racists and we combat racists, and yet here's the racist guy. Yeah, but he's got anxiety. It's different. We need a Gen X president, DeSantis. I would love to see DeSantis as president. I think he would be a home run. DeSantis as Chief Justice if the vacancy came along. I'll take it. Look, I think having DeSantis in the public sphere at a national level is a good thing, regardless of how we get it. But I do think his executive skills are being overlooked when we talk about him just for Supreme Court. I mean, the number of things he has done in Florida have been tremendous. Look at Noah in Key West. Must be nice. By the way, did you see any of this? They've got, let's do this first. Let's talk about clemency again. Let's talk about clemency. Tim Walz is being asked about the fact that they pardoned an illegal immigrant who, sexually abused a 10-year-old girl. And again, just unbelievable. And they asked him about it. This is what Tim Walz said.
I guess the question I would ask is did that make us any safer? Did that make the children that are left behind any more stable? Did it improve the idea that we can't all be judged by our worst day? And I want to be very clear, these are horrific crimes.
Okay, so let's say that first off, did it make us any safer? He's talking about deporting the guy. Would deporting the guy make us any safer? The answer is yes. The answer is clearly yes. Did it improve the idea that we can't all be judged by our worst day? This guy that sexually abused a 10-year-old girl, and if that's your worst day, I bet you had some other really bad days. The problem is he did this not today, not yesterday, but he did it over a 10-year period. This wasn't him having a bad day and molesting a child. This was him consistently molesting a child. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. DeSantis, Rubio, 2028. Oh, wait, they're both from Florida. Yeah, so that's not allowable technically. Let's see. Out there looking for Rifin affiliates in Key West. All right, I'll take them. Maybe we can do a remote show from down there. You never know. That might be a home run. SCOTUS quiz. Who's the only person to hold the position of Attorney General, Solicitor General, and Justice? I should know this because I read Mark Levin's book about the Supreme Court years ago, but it's been 20 years probably. I'm going to say Hugo Black just for the heck of it. But I don't know that that's right. But you'll tell us. Hopefully, you'll tell us. Let's get back to other things. in Maine, they had a Senate debate. Remember, Graham Plattner finally out. Graham Plattner no longer, they finally went, oh yeah, we don't like this guy. And they excuse, and by the way, before I go to the Maine senatorial debate, let me do this, because Sheldon Whitehouse, who, by the way, again, the Democrats who champion anti-racism, is a member of a whites-only club. And his excuse when he's given that, well, it's a traditional thing and it's a historic thing. And Senator Sheldon Whitehouse is actually grilled by Jake Tapper every so often. Every so often, Jake Tapper shows a little ray of light. Doesn't happen a lot, but every so often, here it is.
A week ago, the Democratic Maine Senate candidate Graham Plattner dropped out of the race after an avalanche of serious allegations, including rape and physical abuse. One of the first women who accused him of domestic violence on the record in the New York Times at the beginning of June was Lindsay Fifield, who is a conservative. At the time, you dismissed her allegations. You said she worked for right-wing political operations. But then a week ago, Monday, a woman named Jenny Rassicott with CNN and also with Politico accused Plattner on the record, on camera, of rape. And then the next day, Fifield talked about what he did to her. As somebody who conducted the interviews, I found them both credible. Do you think you were too quick to dismiss Fifield's allegations?
Now, let me say this before Sheldon Whitehouse starts speaking. The answer to this is, Jake, I made a mistake. Jake, I played politics and I should not have. I should have listened to the women who were speaking and I should have judged their allegations on the individual merits. Jake, I fell into a trap of playing partisan politics when I really should have been concerned about the human beings that were at jeopardy and at risk in this situation. That's it. All you got to do. Whitehouse? No.
Looking at allegations and I've done this as a prosecutor for years, to evaluate things like whether there is corroboration. And with respect to the first allegation, there was none. Whether there's motive to mislead or...
By the way, that's not true. There was lots of corroboration. There were text messages. There were eyewitnesses. Fifield gave the New York Times text messages. She gave the New York Times the names of witnesses that would back them up. New York Times, by the way, did not call any of the witnesses. But later, CNN actually did call the witnesses. And the witnesses all back up Lindsay Fifield's story. So to say that, well, the difference is there were nothing to back up those allegations, that's absolutely untrue. And it would have taken just a peek under the covers to figure that out.
Fabricate. There was plenty. The woman was involved in basically a Koch brothers funded political operation.
Not true.
And had been specifically involved in Maine political activities against Plattner. So, yeah, there came a point when the straw broke the camel's back.
Now, let me ask you this. First off, is there a straw? Why would there be a straw? If there's a straw that broke the camel's back, it means a lot of other things were legit before that. You didn't look at that. Also, she was directly involved in campaigns against Plattner in Maine. Well, let's see. If you knew that someone had abused you and they were now leading the polls to become the candidate in Maine for the Senate, don't you think you would also be involved in political activities against that person? Just disgusting.
But if we don't look with some professional skepticism at allegations, then I think we have not done our duties.
There's a difference in professional skepticism, which means I want to see the evidence. Let me look at the evidence. That's not what he did. He called her a liar from the get-go. That is not professional skepticism. Sorry, kids.
The allegations continue. There comes a point where, yeah, you acknowledge that, yes, there's enough here to go forward. That's the way prosecutors think. That's the way I thought about this.
We don't have to go back and forth on it, but as somebody who interviewed her, she did have corroboration. She had a
Yes.
number of friends who she told the sad and scary stories to years and years before. She had diary entries.
Yes.
There was a number of corroborating evidence.
And good on Jake Tapper, by the way, to follow up with that.
Cover
And we
from
don't have to go back and forth
It's
on it.
one
but
of the big
hoax. Let me call you out on it because he was right to do that. Absolutely right. Hint, Nuremberg, good movie too. Justice Jackson, that was the American prosecutor of the Nazis. Oh, there you go. Okay. Now you've done it. Anxiety is a hoax. Your email is going to blow up. Maybe, but I'm not saying people don't have anxiety. But to make it this all-encompassing, crippling, got to be treated, got to give you disability for it, that's nonsense. Sorry. The Plattner era of politics. This confirmed the Me Too movement and believe all women is dead. No, because Amy's got this right. It's believe all women unless it's politically inconvenient. Believe all women unless they're Republican women, and then obviously you don't want to do that. That's the way that works. By the way, just so you know, Savannah guys, our Savannah people, the in-market Savannah bridge run has been canceled due to circumstances beyond our control. This bridge run, by the way, was supposed to happen in December, but there's work being done to the Talmadge Bridge, so they're not going to be able to have the bridge run. So what I would say to all of you runners in Savannah who want to be on the bridge run in December, keep your powder dry, because in February, you can come down to Brunswick and run on the Sidney Lanier Bridge. Because the Sidney Lanier Bridge run is still on for President's Day weekend. So I'm sorry that you're not going to be able to do that. I hate that you're not going to be able to do it, but we have an alternative for you. Really quickly, Savannah resident says he's moving after second night of gunfire near his home. That's a shocker. And today, Beaufort County officials are going to give a Coligny Beach shooting update. You know about that. There were 8 people shot on the 4th of July at Coligny Beach, of all places. And they're going to have an update on that today. It's going to be interesting to see what they do, because I think they've arrested at least 3 people on that already. So we shall see. Waltz was channeling his best Hillary. What difference does it make now? Yeah, when she was standing there in front of the Senate, excusing away Benghazi, which, by the way, if you've never seen 13 Hours, really worth seeing. Really, really good movie. And I don't say that. That's what's his name? Baysplosion, Michael Bay movie. Still good though. I have no anxiety about calling out people about fake anxiety. Yeah, that's the problem, is that anybody who wants to be disabled, anybody who wants drugs can go be anxious. I'm where do you go with this? I've been witness to people who have literally called up doctor's office and said, I'm feeling anxious. I need some pills. And they got them. So I'm not really impressed by most. And I'm not saying none of it is legit or real or crippling or debilitating, but I'm saying it's one of those things where people use it as an opportunity to get privileges, because we have disease privilege in society. We've talked about this before. We have mental illness privilege in our society. And again, we had a guy who got really upset with me because his son has mental illness and he doesn't want that. And I get that. It's real. But the problem is there are people who take that and then abuse it, and so that they can get privilege out of it. It's not good. I guess I'm failing as an adult. I don't keep a journal or a diary. Kavanaugh and then the victim of Plattner. Some people do. Some people don't. I don't really either. But my life is so public anyway that I probably should keep a journal just to make sure people don't lie about me. But it's because people do, I get it all the time. So-and-so said you did this. No, I didn't do that. And we were talking yesterday about Podcast Boy telling everybody that he got me fired from iHeart, along with people in 94 other cities, and everybody in Brunswick and everybody in Savannah. So it's just one of those things. George Ragsdale, welcome, sir. Give us a tour of your home studio. There's not much to show. At some point, I probably will do that. I'll do that on maybe I'll do it with a different, I won't do it with this camera because this camera's kind of stationary. But this is the RE20. This is my wife bought me this for Christmas several years ago. This is the Rodecaster Pro 2 over here. My wife bought me a Rodecaster Pro 1 for my birthday several years ago, and then I used birthday money the next year to upgrade that to a 2. And the Rodecaster Pro 2 is one of the best mixers I've ever seen in my entire life. It was exactly what I wanted. It was a thing. When the Rodecaster Pro 1 came out years ago, I went, this is a thing we've all been waiting for. Like many of us who've wanted home studios have said, you know, there are certain specs we want to have in a home mixer, and it just wasn't out there, didn't exist. And then they put out the Rodecaster Pro, and it was like, that's it, that's the one. And then I remember getting it going, the only things I would do differently if I had it were this, and this. And then they put out the Rodecaster Pro 2, and it had everything that I had complained about on the one, and there was very little to complain about. And it actually had even more stuff in there, features and that kind of thing on there. So Rodecaster Pro, this camera, giant monitor in front of me, and books. and much of my childhood up there. So yeah, I'll do a more thorough tour because I love this room, and honestly, the room needs to be cleaned up a little bit before I give a more thorough tour of it. I've done tours of it on the air before, but this is a room that we had a guest staying with us for a while, for about 6-7 months, and it had been my office before, and it was very much kind of pieces and parts, and just kind of catch can. And I had to put all of that away, put it all in storage, get rid of it all. When we had a family member come move in with us for a while. When the family member moved out, I said, well, I guess I'm going to go to storage and get everything out and put it back where it was. And Mrs. Rifen went, no, you're not. And I went, what do you mean? She goes, you're going to redo the room the way you want it. And the thought was a room that's a fully capable studio, which I had kind of a partially capable studio before, but not really just a thing where I could just fire up and do stuff. And also a room where I would like to just be, a place where I can spend time, place where I'm comfortable, place where I'm at home, place where I can write, I can think, I can create. And so to that end, yeah, we put this room together. The big things you can see are the books and the things that I got out of storage unit and decorated up top. What you can't see are the guitars there, the guitar there, the artwork, but this was all like, I told her I wanted just a wall of bookshelves wrapping around the room. And so that's what we did. And Mrs. Rifen sat down with me and we worked on, what is that going to look like? What is the best solution for that? And we came up with this, the Billy. These are IKEA Billies, by the way, for those of you playing the home game. And it's great. It's been wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Running helps with my anxiety. I take a vitamin pill that helps as well. That's good. That's good. Are you going to get the RE20 gold plated? For those of you playing the home game, what he is talking about is Rush Limbaugh's golden EIB microphone. The golden EIB microphone, he used to joke about, the golden EIB microphone was literally theater of the mind until Electro Voice, who makes the RE20, and the RE20 is the gold standard, by the way, for voice work. I mean, this is the mic, which is why it was so wonderful that Mrs. Rifen bought it for me. But Electro Voice made him a gold-plated RE20 or electro-plated, looks gold, whatever, RE20. So it really is only one, and I think Glenn Beck has it now. I think Rush's widow Catherine gave it to Glenn Beck. But they made him a gold RE20, and it's not a thing that's for sale. In fact, it's only been in the last few years they've introduced a second color of RE20. They now have black RE20s and then this kind of gray RE20. But the gray is what it always was. You go to good radio stations all around the place. If they don't have RE20s, they're not serious about the voice work. That's just what I'll say. It's good to be seen and good to be heard. And it's good to hear from you, sir. Do me a favor, Mr. Ragsdale. Go over to YouTube, find my channel, youtube.com @ScottRifen, and subscribe. It helps me out. Let's see. I always use the Zoom H5. I think it's called. Love that thing. H6. I got I got a Zoom H6 years ago. I have one. I used it. It's funny because the Zoom H6 is about this big, and it has mic plugs all over the place, and then a thing on top where you can add more mic plugs. And so it's about this big. So if you're doing like a roundtable thing, you're on location, that kind of thing, it's good for that. I just was never in a position, even though we were doing Dinner for Geeks and that kind of thing, it just was never good for that. It was just never anything that I needed for what I was doing. So it's barely ever been used. I've actually thought about selling it several times. So if anybody needs a Zoom H6, I begged to be able to get it. And then I felt terrible that I got it and it was like not what I wanted, which is funny because I wanted it. I chose it. And I begged to get it and I got it. And then I was like, oh, this isn't good. Well, meanwhile, Mrs. Rifen gets me this, Mrs. Rifen gets me that. They're perfect. They're exactly what I need. So maybe I should just let her do all my picking of my equipment. But the H6 just never, it was never a thing that it never really met my needs, except, and this is a true story, one night I was taking it at one point, I was taking it to the football games, and I was going on the field and doing a quick interview with Rocky Hidalgo before pregame, and then I'd bring it up and I'd wire it into the board and I'd play the 2-3 minute interview. And it just it was like a 3-question thing, and it just eventually I just realized it was more work than it was worth trying to get that done. So I stopped doing it, but we had. I brought it with me because of that. So one trip we go to Waycross for a game, and we get there, and Garrison is in charge of the equipment. And let me tell you something. He is normally very meticulous, he's almost Rain Man about some of this stuff. And we get there and he goes, oh no. And I said, what? And he goes, I didn't bring the headsets. And I went, wait a minute, you didn't bring the headsets. Now understand, our goal is always to get there an hour before we're supposed to go on. So, we go on at 7, we want to be at the stadium at 6. And the reason is so we can set up the equipment and then go through and troubleshoot if there are any problems and just everything's ready. So, and usually what happens is we get set up within 10 minutes, we troubleshoot everything, and then we have about 30, 45 minutes just kind of sit there and talk about how we're going to do things. And if we have any problems, we do have that time that we can use doing that. So we get there and we're in Waycross at Memorial Stadium in Waycross. And Garrison has left the headsets. Those are our microphones. Now, Waycross is an hour back home. We are there an hour before broadcast, which means we don't have time to go back home because it's going to take 2 hours to get home and get there, get back there and get plugged in and everything. We can't do it. We're toast. So I started experimenting with the Zoom H6. Now, we had a microphone that we used for the crowd. And it's funny because it's an Electro Voice microphone. It's not the RE20. It was a handheld Electro Voice. It's one of those, it's funny because I'll watch old 70s things, news clips and stuff, and I'll see that mic. But it's the same mic. One of our engineers, a guy named Phil Tuck, used to set up when ESPN would go out and do games, when they would come do a Jaguars game. They don't do NFL anymore, but they used to. When they would do a Jaguars game on the radio, that was the mic he told me they would use for crowd noise. They would literally drop it out of the press box and use that mic for the crowd. So I said, well, if it's good enough for ESPN, we can do it. And we started using that mic and dropping it out the window of the press box as a crowd mic. And so I said, okay, we've got the crowd mic. Maybe we can pass it back and forth. And then I went, wait a minute, let me try something here. And so I activated the Zoom H6 and found that, it's a recording device, but I found that if I use certain settings, I could actually pass audio through it. So we did that game. It was Glenn versus Ware County, obviously. And we did it with Garrison holding the crowd mic and me holding the Zoom H6, passing the audio through to the board. And I was like, man, something else. Very jealous. The thing is, we need more. I need more. This is just a small portion of what we have. If they call the doctor's office and get pills for feeling anxious, then maybe people should be put on the red flag list. I'm not going to comment there. Glenn gave it to the Charlie Kirk. Okay, well, that's good to know too. But yeah, so he did have it then. Glenn was given it, and then Glenn gave the Charlie Kirk show that after Charlie was assassinated, which again kind of makes sense because Charlie Kirk, and I think a lot of people, older people, were outraged at the murder of Charlie Kirk, and we hate that and everything. He was their Rush. For the younger generation of conservatives, he was that guy. Because for me, Rush was, I'm at college, I'm feeling alone, I don't have, a good connection. Every time I go to class, all they do is try to beat me down about my values and beliefs. And, like every lesson, every day you'd go to class and it would be somebody just beating up on religious people, conservatives, and it just, it really wore on me because, I'm living on campus. So it's like every message you get everywhere is a left-wing beatdown of your values and beliefs. And so the summer of 91, when a lot of wonderful things happened, summer of 91, probably the most pivotal, consequential summer of my life. I figured out that there was a woman that I absolutely should be married to. And I am, by the way, just for the record. And I also found Rush on the radio and listened to him for the first time. I'd heard about him, but I hadn't heard him. And it changed everything. Because now I felt confident. Now I felt bold. I felt, I didn't feel like I was alone in the wilderness. And that's kind of the way things went with that younger generation and Charlie Kirk. He was their lifeline to conservatism. He was their lifeline to, yes, you're off at college, but understand you're not the crazy one. When they tried to make it seem like you were. And Charlie Kirk was the guy for that generation. And I hope people my age and older understand that, how significant he really was, because he was their Rush. And so I can, and I remember Rush saying, one day Charlie Kirk could be the president. I remember Rush saying, keep an eye on Charlie Kirk when Charlie Kirk was just getting started. Keep an eye on Charlie Kirk. And it turned out he was a guy to watch, no doubt about it. Bill finally found the show again. Glad to hear. I'm very glad to be heard. We've got ugly faces. I don't know what we did for the ugly faces, but we'll take them. And good morning from Brunswick. All right, Jamie, I appreciate your joining it. Everybody, don't forget, you can, if you missed any part of it and you want to check it out later, it'll all be up on YouTube. And you can just go to youtube.com/@ScottRifen. While you're there, please subscribe, like the video, because liking it also helps in the algorithm. And we were shooting for at least 1,000 subscribers. We have gone over that now. We're over 1,040. And last night I was able to check out exactly how many, but I think I have to have I think I have to be somewhere else on here to be able to do this. But hang on, let me see. Yeah, no, I can't. I gotta do it some other way. But anyway, that having been said, keep liking it, keep sharing it, keep subscribing. I appreciate it. He was more than Rush, though. I don't know if he was more than Rush. I'll say he was their generation. I'm gonna stick with he's that generation's Rush. I'll stick with that. I will certainly accept more clarity from you on that, because I would like to hear your bit on that. But Rush changed everything for a lot of people. There's no Fox News without Rush. There's no AM talk radio without Rush. There's no AM without Rush. There's no FM talk radio without Rush. As much as I don't know your age, I don't know what generation you were part of, but as much as I don't want people in my generation to minimize Charlie Kirk, I hope people of the younger generation don't minimize Rush. Because he was landscape shifting in a lot of different ways. All right. Yes, I appreciate that. Yeah, we'll be leaving this evening for our trip. We will not be back until Tuesday afternoon. I will be home in time for trivia on Tuesday night at Max on New Jessup Highway. And Goat. There's nobody but Red. And honestly, again, this is not only was I reassured in college, but I was majoring in writing and I was film minoring, And I really thought, I would write movies and that kind of thing. But what really happened was a lot of those guys that I was hanging out with just kind of, when the 92 election happened and Bill Clinton was elected, they all, not all of them, several of them just kind of went, you know what? I don't need to deal with you anymore. I don't need to deal with you anymore. I don't have to deal with you anymore. And that really bothered me, that people that were supposed to be, my friends, the guys that had my back, just kind of went on me, just flipped. And that's when I said, obviously I'm not going to go out there and write movies. What am I going to do? And the more I listened to Rush, the more I went, this is in my wheelhouse. This is a thing I could do. This is a thing I would like to do. Okay. So I got a little more clarification from him. Okay. Turning Point 1, 2024. That's a very serious, solid assertion. And I think that's probably true. But I will say this, and again, this is why I say, younger people don't minimize Rush. Older people don't minimize Charlie Kirk. Rush won 1994. Rush was the key to the Republicans taking Congress for the first time in 40 years. He was the key to making the Senate and the House consistently competitive again. They made Rush an honorary member of that 95 Congress because he played such a huge role in getting them elected. So again, there are a lot of parallels between those two guys, and they're both huge, and they both deserve, I think, certain places, no doubt about it. I will be safe. We will try to enjoy. And the interesting thing about this trip is going to be that originally the intention was going to be to meet up with one of my old iHeart bosses, and probably not going to happen now. But he actually arranged for a lot of what was going on the trip to happen. And I don't know. He probably will feel uncomfortable about meeting up with us, so I'm not going to push for that. But I felt like, we had the trip booked and we should just go ahead and stick with it. No doubt. Let's see. I grew up from 5 listening to Rush and then to Charlie, both legends. Got to listen to Rush like 35-ish years, all riding my grandfather's pickup with cigar smoke. Still listen to Rush with a cigar to relive those days. I will tell you, there are times when I was show prepping that, I will usually have audio in my ears before I start the hardcore show prepping, when I'm doing, or when I was at the radio station, when I was doing, because my first hour was spent doing production and computer maintenance and that kind of thing. And so usually during that hour, I would have something in my ears. The second hour, I'd put a news feed on and I would just start, reading and copying and pasting and that kind of thing. But there was a long period of time where I was finding old Rush shows from the 90s and putting those on in my headset while I was getting geared up for the morning. And I got to tell you, there was nothing that got me rolling like that. It was great. I even found some from the 80s that were just, late 80s that were fantastic. When he was, some hours when he was just on in New York City and that kind of thing. So adios. Yes. I hope to have a great weekend again. There will be no stream Monday or Tuesday unless Steve Glosson reaches out and says, hey, I want to do it for you. I'll give him access to my stream. But otherwise, yeah, it's just going to be kind of without, it's going to be without any stream, any content there. In what way did Rush influence 94? Really? Oh my goodness. Rush was the guy putting forth the policy. Rush was the guy pushing the agenda. Nobody was saying conservative things in the mainstream media in a large way, and he was on 600 stations by then. Nobody was saying the things Rush was saying that were conservative, that normalized conservatism. He was pushing hard for the candidates in 94. He was working hard for the election. I mean, the election of 94 happened. Again, they made him an honorary member of that Congress because the election happened because Rush pushed it through. Rush was having a celebrity moment at that point in time. Again, he put out his first book right before the Clinton election, The Way Things Ought to Be. It sold millions of copies. And then 92, after 93, after Clinton was elected. He put out See, I Told You So, sold millions of copies. He was a cultural phenomenon at that point in time. But he he was kind of the heart and soul driving that 94 takeover. And let me point this out also. One of the big things he did was he pointed out the House banking scandal. And again, I don't know how old you are, so you may not know about the House banking scandal, but literally, and it's pretty disgusting. And the mainstream press, the news just was silent on this. And Rush made a big deal out of it, and a lot of congressmen lost their jobs over this. But it was and it was about an 87-13 Democrat scandal. They were always say, it's always one of those things where there's 100 Democrats doing something and 2 Republicans. They go, well, it's a bipartisan. Everybody does it. The House banking thing was amazing. Members of Congress, there is still a House bank. Members of Congress were allowed to kite checks. They could go to the House bank and write a check and not have the money in there and just take out tens of thousands of dollars from the House bank. And they were just, and again, it was, there were some Republicans who were caught doing it, but it was overwhelmingly the Democrats doing it. And they were just going and taking money out of the House bank. They didn't have any money in their accounts. And the House bank was just giving them money and not holding them accountable for it. It was really amazing. And nobody else would cover it. Rush is the only guy covering it. And finally, it got to the point where, it was undeniable and they couldn't walk away from it. But, and then the House banking scandal, again, led a lot of people to go, gee, my Democrat congressman, maybe he's not such an up and up guy. Maybe I should not reelect him, but maybe I should give a chance to this other guy. And Newt comes up with the contract with America and all of that. But when the history books are written on that 94 Congress, and it's one of the most remarkable, the 94 election to Congress and the 95 Congress, it's a remarkable story. It's a great American story, but Rush Limbaugh is right in the middle of that thing. He again, that's why I tell people, older people should not minimize Charlie Kirk, because Charlie Kirk was a giant. But younger people should not minimize Rush, because Rush, there is no Charlie Kirk if there is no Rush. There is no 94 Congress election without Rush. Really, there's no Trump without Rush, to be honest with you. There's no AM radio without, AM radio was about to go away. And Rush saved it. So yeah, nobody should minimize either of these guys because they're both huge. Should do Rush moment similar to the Reagan bit you had. His words are timeless, so pertinent. I agree. I will also tell you the iHeart was actually doing a Rush podcast that's similar to that at one point, and then they stopped doing it. And they should still do it. The difference is the Reagan stuff, everybody owns. The public owns the Reagan stuff. You own it, I own it, I can use it. I can't do that with the Rush stuff because somebody, iHeart owns it. If I did a Rush moment, I would get in trouble. And iHeart owns part of it, and Catherine may own some of it as well. I don't know what the ownership breakdown is at this point on that, but needless to say, it's not owned by the public like the Reagan stuff is. And that's why I could do the Reagan stuff as well. You really. Oh, okay. I wondered if that was you. I wondered, but I immediately said, well, it's probably not him because he's already chimed in once. But yes, okay. I wondered if that was you because it sounded kind of like you. Postal Bureau Chief. Yeah, look into the House banking scandal. It really is huge. But yeah, again, don't minimize Rush. I will tell people my age, don't minimize Charlie Kirk, but don't minimize Rush. Either way. First time I heard Rush on WGIG in the mid-90s working on St. Simon. I was summer of 91 for me on GIG as well. I was riding around. I'm not a fan. I can say this now because I don't have the shackles of having to promote the products. I'm not a fan of music radio. And the reason I'm not a fan of music radio is because even on the formats I like, maybe 1 out of 15 songs, there's the song that I want to hear at that point. but I've always enjoyed talk radio, and I've always enjoyed radio dramas and that kind of thing too. And that would be a cool thing for us to do on the upper tier. Most of that CBS radio theater, mystery theater stuff is public domain at this point. And it's so fun. And there's like 1,300 episodes of the thing. Maybe we can put stream some of that stuff behind a paid tier or something. But anyway, I was the same way. I heard him on GIG because I had the talk radio on, and usually I listened at night and I heard Bruce Williams. This is Bruce Williams. I didn't really care about Bruce Williams, but at least it was people talking. But yeah, so I had it on from Bruce Williams at night and just happened to ride around one day and it was on. And when I turned it on, it was The Philanderer, if you remember that, when he's doing Ted Kennedy as the Wanderer song, but The Philanderer. And I died laughing. And I spent the rest of that day listening to that and dying laughing, listening, his whole show. And I just like it was funny because he would always say, it takes 6 weeks of listening to get it, but I got it like that second. It just clicked like nothing had ever clicked for me. The thing about Charlie for me is that he set up a get out the vote infrastructure that has outlived him. And that's great. That is amazing. And again, yes, you're right. But that doesn't mean we minimize Rush. All right. I've been on longer than I've done one of these before. So I'm going to get out of here. Again, like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. I can't believe I find myself saying these things, but I am. And have a great weekend. I got to get out of here. I'm traveling this afternoon. We'll be out of town tonight, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. I will be back for trivia at Max Tuesday evening. And then Wednesday, we'll be back to the stream. Okay? You guys have fun, and we'll see you next week.